You know what's weird? I keep seeing things about the Olympics, and if I'm gonna be completely and totally honest with you, I really don't know why. You know, I understand we live in this era where we have like personalized ads, whether you like it or not, but for some reason I keep seeing ads for the Olympics, and it just really kind of confuses me. You know, I've never liked sports. I've never liked anything really way too physical. I've never enjoyed watching or partaking in them. It's always just been something very boring to me. I feel like a lot of the time there's just way too much standing around. Sure, there are outliers here, like, you know, you're constantly running around in basketball, or you're supposed to be at least. And that was why whenever I was a kid, if I was being forced into playing some type of sport, well, I wanted something where I would be able to at least run around and preoccupy my time so I wasn't just standing around on the field or on the court or whatever. But I look at Olympics and I look at like sports and televised physical activity, and it just confuses me to no end because, you know, I'm not taking part in it. I don't know anything about what's really happening. I don't know the rules of like a track run or something like that, even though it should be pretty understandable just looking at it. You know, you have to get from point A to point B in a certain amount of time. Got to be the first to cross that finish line, but I don't know if there are other rules that you have to adhere to. I know that you might need to like stay in your own lane, but you know, I mean, come on, it confuses me something fierce. You know, I'm just saying, like, the Olympics are boring, and I remember whenever I was like in elementary school specifically, there were a couple of teachers who were very obsessed with the Olympics, and every time that we would go in for like the entire year, no, not the entire year, the week that it was going on, whenever I was in like third grade, we had a teacher who would talk our ear off about everything that happened in the Olympics that year. I can't remember exactly when it was, but whenever Michael Phelps, I think it was that swimmer, you know, became like a big time celebrity or something. I really don't know any of his accomplishments. I don't know any of the accomplishments of any of these Olympic superstars, but for some reason they're supposedly household names, but, you know, definitely not in my household. I couldn't tell you one of the people that America had sent. That's my own country, alright? I can't tell you the names of any other Olympic contenders this year or in previous years probably, except the one that I just named. You know, I know that like the Olympics started in Rome or something, and you know, I know that there was some stuff that happened in World War II relating to the torch run. Honestly, that's not my neck of the woods. It's not anything that I enjoy talking about. It's nothing that I really even concern myself with. The Olympics, while it is like something that a lot of people would obsess over, it's never had any real big point in my life, you know, it's never really had any bearing on me in any way, shape, or form. And it's weird that I keep seeing things about the Olympics this year, because I'm not only seeing like advertisements and whatnot, I'm seeing news articles, and I'm seeing people talk about them, and I just don't understand it. I guess maybe this year's Olympics are a little bit different than other years' Olympics might have been. You know, I don't even remember if we had the Olympics last year because of, you know, the plague. But maybe, I guess now that they're actually returning to it, I guess maybe they're controversial for some reason, a variety of reasons I would wager. You know, I know that they had that one story about that one contender, and she tested positive on a drug test for the marijuana. You know, the weed, you know, the devil's lettuce, you know, the wacky tobacco. Look, and I'm going to be completely and totally honest with you, maybe, just reading over that a little bit, I don't necessarily think that she should have been kicked out for that type of stuff. I mean, it's unavoidable in this climate. It's unavoidable in this day and age. Literally everyone on the street could probably tell you what it smelled like, if you understand my meaning. Most likely, like, going down the street, the majority of people under the age of, like, you know, 40, 50, etc., have probably had some sort of run-in with the reefer. And I just think that it's really kind of stupid that you would, like, disqualify someone for having that in their system, you know? Especially whenever we're getting to the point that there's, like, legitimate medical basis that it could be used for. Whether or not she was using it medicinally, though, that's something else entirely. I will admit wholeheartedly, I can't tell you what the name of this lady is. I can't even tell you her backstory. All I'm trying to say is it's like there's definitely worse things that could have shown up on that test. Like if it was a steroids test, yeah, I definitely understand that. Any sort of performance enhancing drug whenever you're in like some physically intensive sport or anything adjacent to it, I understand getting disqualified for that, but not something that just calms you down a little bit, makes you hungry, and makes you want to just sit on your ass all day, you know? I don't know. I definitely don't agree with it, and I just think that it's just, you know, it's kind of this holdover from the war on drugs type thing, but that's, you know, that's getting a little bit off topic, you know? I think that's getting a little bit off topic. We're talking about the Olympics. And like I said, I keep seeing headlines about like these disqualifications. What actually prompted me to make this video right here was that I was on Twitter earlier, And keep in mind, I'm recording this on the 21st right now. It says Australian equestrian athlete Jamie Kermond, so I guess I actually do know the name of one other contestant now, faces a suspension that could keep him from the Olympics. Okay, so there's other people who are getting suspended, disqualified, etc. I just don't understand why, though, and I just don't understand why this keeps popping up on my timeline. And you know, one of the other headlines that I keep seeing is that Ugandan man who just decided he was going to go missing. And it was this Ugandan weightlifter, and I guess he said that life was way too hard in Uganda and he got disqualified for some reason. Then he just vanished. So I guess now he's just in like Japan or in some other country. I honestly don't know. Like I said, I don't read these things. I just read the headlines. I mean, that's basically what everyone else does. I'm just more honest about it. And he just disappeared, you know, and he's just on the run, I assume. I don't know how the immigration on that necessarily would work. Probably that's going to cause some issues. Almost definitely that'll cause some issues for him. But it just goes to show more and more how there's just a lot of weird stuff happening with the Olympics this year. I think this is one of the biggest stories right here. It's also probably one of the funniest, but it's also probably one of the weirdest. They have like cardboard beds in the dormitories for these Olympic contestants now. Like the Olympics this year, I'm fairly certain they're taking place in Tokyo, and they've got these cardboard beds, and they said specifically that they were trying to ensure that people who are in the Olympics, these Olympic contestants, were not going to be making the beast with two backs, if you understand my meaning. They wanted to make sure that they weren't going to accidentally be making babies at the Olympics, and I think it's the funniest thing because this is very clearly probably not the reason that inspired these, you know, cardboard beds. I'm almost certain, like downright 100% certain, that this was just an excuse to spend as little as possible on the bedding for these people. Because think about it. Think about how many people are going to be at the Olympics actually competing. Well, you got to find a place to put them. You got to find a place to keep them up for the night. And I know that in Tokyo specifically, well, space is a luxury. I've heard people say that, but I mean, come on, this is just ridiculous. They said that these cardboard beds can't handle the weight of two people. Well, alright, these are athletes to a degree. You know, these are like very physically intensive people. I would wager they have a little more muscle than the rest of us. I would wager that that muscle is going to make them weigh a little bit more in some cases than the rest of us. What's going to happen when one person who's got a little too much muscle sits on that one single person cardboard bed and completely and totally destroys the bed frame? Are they going to be able to go in and try to convince people that they, you know, were just sitting there and it fell down? Or are they going to like tell them, no, you're disqualified because you were like in there, you know, going at it with some girl? Or like what happens if, I'm assuming that like these cardboard beds would maybe collapse if you were a little too physical on one, if you understand my meaning. So maybe if they're designed like that, well, what if you're restless whenever you're asleep? What if you're, you know, getting a little stressed out because you're about to go perform in front of like thousands of people, televised to millions or something like that, and you know, you're tossing and turning and then all of a sudden your bed just collapses and you hit the ground. Like, it's just the strangest thing. I mean, you couldn't have just put the mattress on the floor or something like that. This is almost entirely just some effort to cut corners by the organizers here. I'm almost entirely certain of that. And you know, it just goes to show more and more that it's just, there's all this weird stuff coming out of it, and if it wasn't this weird, you know, I would never have to hear about it. I would never have to talk about it to anybody. It's just weird in my opinion. I don't understand why people enjoy talking about the Olympics like this. I don't understand why people obsess over them. You know, I've went through this entire video and I've not even talked about any of like the actual things regarding the Olympics, like none of the categories that you can go, you know, whether or not you get a medal or not, because honestly, like I said, it's just not interesting in the slightest. What is interesting, admittedly, is some of the controversy centered around it. That's why this was the bulk of the video. Look, I don't know. All I'm saying is, in summation, in closing, in the conclusion here, I just do not care about the Olympics. I think that I'm never going to care, and honestly, I think that anyone who tries to make me care here is just, you know, talking to a brick wall. It's just very, very boring in my opinion. Anyways, I'm just gonna cut the video off here. I think I've rambled on long enough about a topic that, in all truth, doesn't really interest me that much. If you enjoyed this video, I upload daily. Go check out some of my other content. If you'd like to like this video, maybe subscribe. You don't have to watch the videos, just subscribe, get those numbers up for me. If you'd like to check out my Twitter, it's twitter.com/Hale_Keezer. I've been Keezer. I've never been good at outros. I'll see you next time.